Hi, today we're going to talk about Abraham, Isaac, and the sacrifice God asked Abraham to make in Genesis chapter 22, verses 1 through 17. It's a story everybody's heard of. In short, God asks Abraham to sacrifice his only son Isaac, but then stops him in the last minute. When we examine this story minutely, we see that it's a prophecy, with Abraham being God, Isaac being Jesus, and the ram that gets caught in the thicket. Eventually the prophecy turns from Isaac to the ram becoming Jesus. So let's get started. Verse 1 says, "Sometime later God tested Abraham. He said to him, 'Abraham.' 'Here I am,' he replied." That's what Abraham replied, "Here I am." The biblical word for tested here can also mean to prove someone, such as here, where God is about to prove Abraham's obedience. Then God said, "Take your son, your only son, whom you love, Isaac, and go to the region of Moriah." Now, Abraham actually had two sons, Isaac and Ishmael. But here's how it works. Isaac was the son through whom Abraham was given the promise to become a great nation, numbering the stars of the sky and the sands of the sea. Isaac was the one whom God had promised Sarah she would have a son when she was in her old age, and both she and Abraham laughed because they were too old to have children. That was the son Isaac, as opposed to Ishmael. The real difference between Isaac and Ishmael was that Isaac was born a free woman. In other words, Abraham's wife Sarah was a free woman. Ishmael's mother was Sarah's slave, her handmaiden. But Isaac was born of a promise. He was born of God's promise, whereas Ishmael wasn't. He was born because Sarah didn't believe God would provide Abraham with a son. So he was born of the slave woman. That's the real difference between the two. Do you understand that? Ishmael was born of the slave woman, and he was born out of unbelief. Isaac was born out of belief and out of the promise of God. Okay. Oh, something's going wrong with my computer here. Let's see. Okay. The region of Moriah. All right. This is the same mountain that Jesus would be crucified on. The mountain that God asked Abraham to crucify Isaac on was the same mountain Jesus would be crucified on. So here we have 2 points already that show it's called a type when something resembles Christ in the Old Testament. In fact, all the Old Testament stories are actually types of Jesus Christ. And this is just one of them. So first we have a man, that is Abraham, who represents God, who is going to sacrifice his son. That is Isaac, who represents Jesus, on top of a mountain in the region of Moriah, the same mountain that Jesus was crucified on. Verse 3, "Early the next morning Abraham got up and loaded his donkey. He took with him 2 of his servants and his son Isaac. When he had cut enough wood for the burnt offering, he set out for the place God had told him about. On the 3rd day," again, here we have this happened this whole thing occurred on the 3rd day. The same day Jesus was resurrected is the same day Isaac was symbolically resurrected, because he was about to be sacrificed, and then God told Abraham not to sacrifice him. So he was saved from sacrifice. So in a sense, he was resurrected. Metaphorically, symbolically, however you want to put it. On the 3rd day, Abraham looked up and saw the place in the distance. He said to his servants, "Stay here with the donkey while I and the boy go over there." This next part is probably the most important part of the whole story. It states, "We will worship, and then we will come back to you." Why does Abraham say we will come back to you if he knows he's going to sacrifice his own son? How could he possibly come back with Isaac if he killed Isaac up in the mountain and sacrificed him? The answer lies in Hebrews 11:17 and in Genesis 12:1-2. We're going to read both of these. Hebrews 11:17, where it says, "By faith, Abraham, when God tested him, offered Isaac as a sacrifice. He who had received the promises was about to sacrifice his one and only son." Couple that with Genesis 12:1-2, where it states, "The Lord had said to Abram, go from your country, your people, and your father's household to the land I will show you. I will make you a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing." So, you see, Abraham, when he was asked to sacrifice his own son, he still believed God was going to make him into a great nation, even though he was asking him to kill his only legitimate son. Abraham believed God was going to resurrect Isaac after the sacrifice, since Isaac was his only avenue toward becoming a great nation. Having Isaac remain dead would have negated God's promise to Abraham, and Abraham had such a great faith, he believed that a resurrection would take place. This is before resurrection was even heard of or known of. Abraham's thoughts were a prophecy about Christ. He believed so much in God's promise. He believed so much in God that God would not go back on his word, and that God would provide for him a great son through a great nation through his son Isaac, that he believed God would resurrect Isaac after he sacrificed him. And there's another point of it being a type or metaphor of Jesus. The whole thing is a giant picture of Christ, as we're going to see. Abraham took the wood for the burnt offering and placed it on his son Isaac. Alright, so here you have Abraham, or rather Isaac, having to carry the wood for his own sacrifice up the mountain that he was going to be sacrificed on. Likewise, Jesus had to carry the wood of his own cross up the mountain he was going to be sacrificed on. The same exact mountain, too. So there's another point. But as they went up the mountain, Isaac asked, "But where is the lamb for the burnt offering?" A good question. Abraham answered, "God himself will provide the lamb for the burnt offering, my son." And the two of them went on together. This was a great prophetic statement by Abraham, because God himself provided Jesus as the ultimate lamb to be offered up for our sins. If you've seen any of my other videos, you'll realize that I always get to sneak this in, because I think it's the most important part of the Bible. So here's a good enough place to do it. You see, the reason Jesus was used as a sacrifice was because he was both human and God. Being human was necessary because God wanted to see human bloodshed as a punishment for human sin. And when Jesus was on the cross, he actually became the lump sum of sin in such a way that when he died, all our sin that he had become died along with him. That's the reason Jesus came down here. That's the reason he became human. And that is the crux of the Bible, is the fact that Jesus became sin and died. And when he died, our sin, which he became, died along with him. That is how we become sinless. And since he was God, he was able to live a perfectly sinless, righteous life. So just as he inherited our sin and had to die, and had to die with it, and had it die with him, likewise we inherited his perfectly righteous life, as far as God is concerned. So now we, according to God, are not only sinless, but righteous as well. And that is how a person becomes fit for heaven, by believing in Jesus and agreeing to this swap of sin for righteousness and sinlessness, or as I like to call it, the old switcheroo. That's what I call it. That's the name of a Twilight Zone episode, if you've ever seen it. Sin for righteousness, that was the swap. This is the reason that only belief in Jesus can save a person and get them to heaven. Buddha can't do this for you. Allah can't do this for you. The Dalai Lama can't do this for you. No other spiritual figure can do this for you. No other religion can do this for you. No amount of meditation, no amount of trying to be good, no amount of prayers, no amount of nothing on your part can accomplish this for you. Only Jesus Christ can accomplish this for you. That is why you must believe in Jesus in order to get to heaven. There's no way around it. That is a fact. Okay, the video was too long. It went over 15 minutes, so I'm going to have to split it in two. Just now, that was part one. Look for part two. I'm going to give you instructions at the end of the video how to find it. And that's it. Thank you.